Hello, everyone. Guys. Okay, guys, so please turn your cameras on before we get started with the class, will you? Really appreciate it. Okay, either guys, do you mind turning your cameras? All right. Okay, guys, so today we'll be working on the speaking section, and we'll start with task 2. Okay, so in the speaking section, you will have three integrated questions, okay? We will have one independent one and 3 integrated ones. Now, what I mean when I say this, integrated, it basically means that they're not really gonna ask you, about yourselves. They will ask you about something else. You will be given a certain material and you will be asked to summarize that certain material. So that's what integrated means. And we'll start today with question 2. Okay, so task 2 of the speaking section. So in this task, what you have to do is first, you will read something. You will be reading a short text, something like this, and you will be given 45 seconds to read. Okay, so you need to read. You can take some notes while you're reading, of course. And after the 45 seconds are done, you read that, you will be listening to a short conversation between 2 students. Okay, so you listen to the conversation, and finally you get the question, which is going to ask you to summarize everything, and you will have 30 seconds to prepare and then 60 seconds to speak. Okay, so again, you read something for 45 seconds, you read a short text, then you listen to a conversation, then you get the question, 30 seconds to prepare your response, and 60 seconds or 1 minute to speak. Okay, when you're preparing during those 30 seconds, you're allowed to look at your notes, to maybe take more notes, practice, do whatever you want, but it's just 30 seconds, it's not a lot. And then you need to speak for 1 minute. Okay, so any questions so far about the structure of this task? Okay, now let's talk about what you actually need to do. So first thing, when you read, first thing, this is all gonna be about campus, okay, about college, basically. So that's why I always say it is important that you guys have some vocabulary, as college life, refers to. So if you have some college vocabulary, that's really gonna help you with this task. So make sure to check that out. And what you will be having here is an announcement. So this is gonna be a university's announcement, or sometimes a student letter as well. So it could be the university announcing something, or a student proposing something. Now, but basically, no matter what it is, you will always have the same thing. So that's what I like about this task, that you can actually expect what you will have, Now, in this case, what you will have is a change. So there's a change, there's something that's going on campus. The university wants to do something, plans to do something, or they are proposing to implement a certain change. And it could be anything you can think of. It could be changing the menu of the cafeteria. Maybe they want to hire a new teacher, a new professor, add a new class, eliminate the dorms, or build a new dorm or something. So it could be any type of change. And that's what you will have here. Okay, this is the official announcement for that change. Now, what you need to do is, first thing, you need to read the title. because that's going to give you a good idea of what the change is, like a summary of what the change is. Okay, like in this case, we have music coming to cafeterias. So that's probably what's happening. Now, then you need to read what you have in the text. And when you read, you're looking for two things in there. You're looking for the two reasons that the university gives for this change, because they will always give you two reasons. Okay, so two reasons why they want to do this change. So let's try to find what those are, okay? But first we're gonna read. So will anybody want to read this? Can anyone read this text? Anyone care to read? Okay, maybe Diego, do you mind?
Okay, Andrea. Music coming to cafeterias. Mary Dixon, director of the Student Life Committee, announced yesterday that beginning next semester, university cafeterias will broadcast classical music during mealtime. Music will foster a more relaxed atmosphere, said Dixon. Students' lives are hectic and mealtimes provide important opportunities to take a break and catch up with friends before moving on to the next class or assignment. Added Dixon, we are also hoping that if we provide the music, the students will unplug their personal music devices, their Walkmans, and MP3 players or whatever, and will spend more time talking to each other. When students have their headphones on, they are not connecting with each other.
Okay, thank you so much, Diego, for reading. Now, can anybody tell me what the first reason is? So why does the university want to broadcast music in the cafeterias? What's the reason? The first one. Yes, Daniela?
I think that the first reason is that they want to put a more relaxed atmosphere at the cafeteria, I guess.
Okay, that's perfect. Yes, exactly that. They want to create a more relaxed atmosphere. Awesome. Okay. And what about the second reason? Why else are they doing this?
I think that they want that the students want to talk to each other, and they just leave their Walkmans or that type of things and try to socialize, I guess.
Yes, perfect, exactly. So they want students to talk to each other, as you say, to socialize, to unplug their music devices and start talking or connecting with each other. That's great, Niela. Thank you. So yes, those are the two reasons. Now you will always have that, okay? A change and two reasons. And the biggest piece of advice I could give you here is make sure that when you're reading this, if you're taking notes, which you probably should, try to just summarize this as much as you can, okay? You really need to have this in one sentence for your response. So if I were to take notes, maybe I could write down the words music, cafeteria, relaxed atmosphere, and connecting or socializing, okay? That's it. So you really don't want to focus on the details. None of the details matter. So you don't, in your response, you're not going to have to use anything but those three things, okay? The change and the two reasons. You don't have to explain who said this or when this was announced or when this change will be implemented or, you know, the types of MP3 devices they could use. It doesn't really matter, okay? Everything you need to do is try to focus on those 3 things and try to have it as summarized as possible. Okay. One thing that you can do here is maybe try to divide this into two halves. Usually in the first half, you have the first reason, and in the second one, you get the second reason with some explanation, you know. Sometimes you also have like a transition in here. Furthermore, they expect to do this, or we expect to do that, okay? So try to do that. Make sure to summarize it as much as you can, and that's it. That's what you need to do when you're reading. So do you guys have any questions so far about what to do when you're reading? Okay, so after you read, the 45 seconds are over. As I was saying, you will have to listen to a conversation. Now, this conversation here is going to be between 2 students who are going to be discussing the change. So the students are going to be talking about that announcement that you just read. And one of the students, one of the 2 of them, is going to have a very strong position. Okay, so one of the students will have their mind somewhere. So they could be in favor of the change and be like, that's a great idea, or against it and be like, that's a terrible thing to do, I don't like it, it's not going to work. So when you're listening, you're going to be looking for that. First thing you need to do when you're listening is try to understand whether the student, because it's just one that has a strong position, is against or in favor of this change. Okay, they will be like, hey, you heard the news, they're wanting to do this, what do you think? And one of the students is going to be like, well, I don't think it's going to work, I really don't like it, or I actually like it a lot. So you need to try to see what position they have. And the second thing that you need to do is catch the reasons they give, because the student will give you 2 more reasons. Okay, so you had 2 in the reading, you will have 2 more in the listening. And these reasons, depending on what you have, could be usually the most common type of structure is where the student is against the change. That's the most common thing. So if the student is against, then it's probably going to be the exact opposite. So if the university says, we want to foster a more relaxed atmosphere, the student will say the opposite. We don't want that. We don't want a more relaxed atmosphere. I don't know, for this reason. If they say we want students to talk to each other, then the student is going to say, we're not going to do this. We don't want this, whatever it is, but it's going to be the opposite. Okay. So, and in case the student is in favor, you will have a more like a deeper explanation on this. So why or how they're going to have a relaxed atmosphere, or how they're going to connect with each other. I don't know. So your job, again, is to identify whether the student is in favor or against, and what the reasons that they give are. Okay, so you will always have to. You can take some notes where you're listening, because you will only get to listen to it once. Okay, so you listen to it, there's no going back, and then you get the question. Okay, so any questions so far about what you need to do when you're listening? Okay, in the listening, you don't have to summarize it that much. I know that I said that in the reading, you really need to have it summarized, 4 or 5 words, that's it. But in the listening, you can actually, when you're answering, you're going to have time to explain. So you can take some more notes. All right, what we're going to be doing now is we're going to listen to the conversation, and you guys need to take some notes. So let's listen to it.
And save time at work? You should get Grammarly.
Okay, guys. So now I'm going to play it. Remember, you're looking for arguments or reasons that respond to the ones you had in the reading. So here you go.
Now listen to 2 students discussing the letter. Mary, you're an art student. What do you think of this letter?
I don't like the idea.
Why not?
Well, first of all, his first point about a lot of people passing through that's true, but it's overcrowded with work. Imagine you're standing there trying to look at a painting. There's going to be like
Okay,
a
I'm
million
terribly
people walking
sorry, guys.
through.
I think
People walking
I
in
put the wrong one. That's not the one that we were doing about the music coming to cafeterias. Okay, I'm gonna put it right now. Sorry. Here it goes.
Now listen to two students discussing the university's plan.
This article? A series?
Yeah, I think so. Why?
Well, first of all, a lot of kids aren't looking for a relaxing break at lunchtime. They like to study while they eat, especially if they have exams coming up or some assignment they have to get done.
Yeah, that's true.
And now they won't be able to concentrate. This is going to be very distracting.
Okay. Yeah, I see your point.
And second, most students don't like classical music.
It's certainly not what I listen to.
Not listening to their own music?
No.
I think people are going to be even more likely to bring their MP player, you know, to play their own music and block out the classical stuff.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The man expresses his opinion of the university's plan. State his opinion and explain the reasons he gives for holding that opinion.
So that was the listening. Now let's talk about that. First thing, can anybody tell me whether the student was in favor or against that, the change or the proposal that the university does?
Against.
Okay, nice. Student was against it. And why was he against it? What was his first reason?
The first reason, he said that a lot of kids are looking for a relaxing, like, place, and he said that this was gonna be distracting.
Okay, that's correct. So they're not looking for a relaxing place or time, and this will be distracting for them, especially if they want to like study or prepare for tests, assignments. Okay. And what about the second one he gives? Why else is he against this change?
It's about that not everyone likes classical music.
Okay, so yes, that's true, not everyone likes it. And what does that mean? So they don't like classical music, so what are they gonna do?
I think that they are going to use their own devices to listen to their own music.
Okay, that's true. They're gonna use their own devices and listen to their own music. And as a result, their own music. So that means that they're not really gonna connect with each other, you know, as the university suggests. So the university says, we want you to connect, and the student says, well, but we don't like classical music. We're more likely to bring our devices, black out the music, the classical music, and therefore not connect with each other. So we're not gonna do what your goal is. So that's it. As you can see, it's exactly the opposite, right? They don't want a more relaxed atmosphere. They want to study, prepare. They don't like classical music, so they're gonna listen to their own stuff and socialize even less. So, okay, guys. Now that we have that, any questions so far about the listening, the reading? Okay. So now let's talk about what you need to do in your response. But first thing, the question. So the question is always gonna look like this. It's always gonna be the same, never gonna change. So the man, or well, if it's a female, the woman or the student expresses his or her opinion about the university's plan, state his or her opinion and explain the reasons he or she gives for holding that opinion. So it's always gonna be the same. And as you can see here, they are not asking about the university at all, about the reading. Everything they're asking for is the student, what you had in the listening. You know, the man expresses his opinion, state his opinion and his reasons. So that's what the question is, you know, but that doesn't mean that you don't have to talk about the university at all, about the reading, that you don't have to take it into account. What it means is that you need to talk more about the listening and less about the reading. Okay, and I think that's a mistake that some people would make. So some people are just gonna talk about the listening, just the student, not mention anything from the reading, which is not ideal. Okay, or some people, the opposite, are gonna talk like half or more of the response just the reading, and then they're gonna leave out the or not have time to for the listening. Okay, so you gotta make it that way. You're gonna talk more about the listening and less about the reading. The question has changed, by the way. It wasn't always like that. The test has changed. I think in 2019 they have changed it. And the question used to be a bit different. Let me show you. So the question used to be like this. So this was the question. Briefly summarize the proposal, then state the man's opinion and explain the reasons he gives. Okay, so you have that part of briefly summarize the proposal. And even though they don't have that anymore, that's still what you need to do, okay? Because if you don't summarize the reading, and if you start right off with the student, it's gonna lose its sense, you know, it's not gonna make that much sense. It's gonna be a bit out of context. You're not gonna give that background information or context that it's actually necessary. So what we're gonna do is this. In your response, you need to have a short introduction. And when I mean short, I really mean short, in which you're gonna summarize the reading in the intro. Okay? So remember what I said about having this as summarized as possible, 4 to 5 words. So you're gonna turn that into one sentence, summarizing the whole reading. So you can say something like the university, or if it's a student in a letter, we're gonna see that in a bit, but the university or the student from the letter, and you can use one of those verbs like proposes to, or has decided to, or maybe is planning on. Okay, you can use whichever you want. So the university proposes to broadcast music in the cafeterias, or has decided to broadcast music, is planning on, and here you need a gerund, right? Is planning on broadcasting music on the cafeterias. So at the beginning, you're gonna tell me what the change is, which is probably gonna be in the title. The university proposes to broadcast music in the cafeterias, and you're gonna summarize the reasons. So you can tell me since they wanna foster a relaxed atmosphere and they want students to connect, okay? So it's super quick, one sentence. You can use the word since here, that means because, or you can also sometimes use the word in order to, which might be a bit shorter sometimes. You could say, the university proposes to broadcast music in the cafeterias in order to create a more relaxed atmosphere and for students to connect, okay? Or since they want, whatever you want, but it's just gonna be one sentence, okay? Please don't use transitions here. Don't tell me something like, because of 2 reasons. First, they would like students to connect and socialize more since they are currently with their MP3 players, blah, blah, blah. Don't explain, don't focus on the details, don't tell me anything but those 3 things, okay? The change and the 2 reasons, as summarized as possible. So is that okay so far? Any questions about the introduction in your response?
No.
Okay, shouldn't take you that much. And then you need a transition, okay? And this transition is really cool because here you're gonna have a transition, and then you're gonna tell me what the student's position is. Okay, both at the same time, two birds in the same stone. So you can say something like, meanwhile, the student advocates or doesn't advocate this idea. Or you can change this. You can say, meanwhile, the student likes this idea, doesn't like this idea, is not in favor of this, doesn't like this change, doesn't agree with the university. Whatever you want to say, just make sure that you have a transition and you tell me what the student's position is. So what he believes, whether he's in favor or against. Okay, I really like this one, meanwhile, because I think it's quite neutral. You know, it doesn't matter if the student is in favor and against, you can still use this one. But if instead you have something like, however, then that means that the student is against, you know, so you cannot use it if the student is in favor. So meanwhile, it's neutral, it works with everything. That's why I wrote it there, but you can use the one you prefer. You know, whenever I give you templates, you guys are welcome to change the words as long as you keep the structure, okay? As long as you have an intro, you have transitions whenever you have to have them, reporting verbs. It is really important that we keep that. Transitions are part of the rubric they use to evaluate your score. It gives vocabulary, it helps with organization and structure. And, you know, there's a reason why they are specifically looking for that. So try to use them. And after you do that, that would be like 20 seconds, okay? The intro and the transition, 20 seconds. And then you need to talk about the student. So you move on and you tell me why the student thinks so. So you talk about the two reasons he gives. You're gonna say, first, you're transitioning there to begin with, to start. He states that, and then you tell me the reason. So he states that most kids are now looking for a relaxing time. Instead, they want to prepare and study for exams. Therefore, this would be a distraction for them, okay? And then you say, in addition, he believes that, and then you tell me the second one. Not everyone likes classical music, which means they are more likely to bring their own devices, listen to their own music, and therefore, or as a result, not connect with each other. Okay, so that's it. You have the intro, you have the transition, which makes 20 seconds total. And then you have the two reasons, which could also be 20 seconds for each. So 20 seconds here and 20 there, right? So as you can see, 20 seconds are for the reading, to summarize the reading and the transition, and 40 seconds are for the listening. And that makes the 60 seconds that you have to speak. So is that okay, you guys? Any questions so far about the template? Feel free to ask whenever you have a question. Okay, some things I wanted to say. Make sure that you use these reporting verbs. So you're not just gonna tell me, the student doesn't like this idea, and then you right off tell me, not everyone likes classical music, kids are now looking for a relaxing time, because these are not your ideas. You know, you're not the ones that are saying this. This is something that the student said. So you gotta think like you were a reporter, okay? Like you were just reporting the news and you're gonna tell me, okay, the student states, the student claims, the student argues, the student points out, mentions, describes, explains, whatever verb you want to use, but try to use a reporting verb. Try not to say so much says or thinks to show more vocabulary, you know? So the student says, the student says, the student says. Try to use more. There are many more you could use. Make sure that they are in the simple present, like this one, states. I'm not saying the student stated, believed, pointed out. because these are facts, okay? So these are his opinion. It's not something that, you know, when you're reporting an opinion or a fact, you use the simple present. So try to use that. Okay. So yes, that's important, your reporting verbs. You don't need a conclusion. You don't have to do one. Only in case you get extra time, you're gonna be able to look at the clock right away. So the timer is gonna be running on your screen. And if you see that you have some more time and you don't know what to say, maybe you can give a conclusion. You can say something like, I don't know, that's why the student, so that's why the student doesn't believe this is going to work, or this is a good idea, or is a good, good proposal. Okay, but this is not necessary, only if you have extra time. It's not going to add anything, it's just to fill up that time that you could have. So yes, those are some things I could say. What else? Yeah, I think that's it. So do you guys have any questions about this? Okay. Now, if you don't have questions, is there anybody who would like to try? Now that we have basically done it already, we have mentioned every single thing that we need to include in the response. But is there anybody who would like to put everything together and come up with a response? With the timer and everything? Maybe, I don't know. Andrea, do you mind going first?
I was out the first minutes and I don't hear at all.
Okay, all right. Anyone else then? Maybe Melissa?
I think yes.
I'm sorry?
Yes, I think.
Okay, perfect. So just give it a try. It's gonna be your first try. Don't worry, it's obviously not gonna be perfect, but we're just gonna see how it goes.
Okay. So the university proposal is to play music in the cafeteria in order to create a relaxing atmosphere and that the students can socialize more. Meanwhile, the student doesn't advocate this idea. First, he states that found the music is distractive to students that are trying to study. And in addition, he believes that not everyone likes classical music and they will use other devices. So this is why the students doesn't like the idea.
Okay, Melissa, that was great. Awesome, perfect. So well done. You organized your time well, you made it in time. You follow the structure, it worked. I like how you summarized everything, how you summarized the intro. It was exactly less than 15 seconds. You had a transition. Grammar was great. So nothing to say really. I think that was really cool. Maybe some tips for everybody. Careful with the tenses. You know how everything here is like proposals or usually decisions or changes that are going to be implemented in the future. So maybe try to keep those tenses here in your response. So instead of saying like the music is distracting to students who prepare or who study, try to use maybe will or would. So the future, simple future or conditional. So you could say, you know, students will get distracted or students who are preparing like this kind of. Okay, I'm sorry. So try to keep those tenses, okay? They won't like it, they won't socialize, they will get distracted, or also would, you know, in case this happens, they would get distracted, they wouldn't socialize. So you can use one of those tenses. Yes, maybe just that. That's one thing I would say. Careful there. All right, guys. Any questions? Okay. So I wanted to say before we practice, there are some cases in which you will have something a bit different. So first thing, you know, the reason why I have this, the university / student from the letter, is because sometimes it isn't the university who's announcing this. In this case, it was the university, you know, director of the student life committee announced. However, sometimes it could be a proposal from a student as well. So it could be a student that's proposing something. So in that case, you need to say the student from the letter proposes to. So for example, let me show you. Here, this is the one that we're going to be doing next. So you will see that you have like the first person, like, I think this should be done, you know? So when you have the first person, like, I think this should happen, or I think that should happen, or sometimes you also have like somebody signing at the end of the letter. Let me show you. So when somebody's signing the letter, then it means it's a student, right? Like, for example, here. Sincerely, Megan Finch, right? So it's a student that's proposing something. So in that case, try not to say the university, try to say the student. It's the only thing that's going to change. The student in the letter proposes to do this. And sometimes, now this is really rare, I guarantee you're not going to see this that much, but sometimes instead of a change and 2 reasons, you have a problem and 2 suggestions. Okay, that's also something that I've seen maybe one or twice. I don't think it's been more than that. And it's still the same. Look at this, for example. In this text here, okay, where is it? You have a change, you have a problem. Student health services need improvement. That's the problem. There's something wrong with the student health services. And the student has 2 suggestions. I have 2 suggestions. First, they should hire more doctors. And second, they should open on weekends. So even though it might look a bit different, you still need to do the exact same thing. In your response, instead of saying maybe proposes to, you're gonna say the student from the letter, I don't know, believes, I don't know, that the student needs improvement, or that the student health center needs improvement, and has 2 suggestions, or suggests to hire more doctors and open on weekends. So everything's gonna be still the same. You just need to maybe use different words, but it's still the same structure. Okay, so those are some other possibilities that you can encounter. That okay? Any questions? Okay. And one more thing I wanted to say, make sure to always kind of try to connect the reading with the listening. So for instance, if here you're saying, you know, the student believes that students won't like or don't like classical music, So they are more likely to bring their MP3 players and black out the classical stuff. Try to connect it to the reading. So you can say, therefore, they're not going to connect with each other as the university suggests, or they don't want to a relaxed atmosphere like the university proposed or like the university indicates. Okay, so try to maybe connect ideas. Here are some phrases you could use, like, even though, I don't know, even though students, even though this will create a more relaxed atmosphere, this is not what students want. Or even if, although, or in case they agree, you could say this will certainly be good for this, or be a good idea or a good change. So I'm just leaving you with some ideas, okay? Now, any questions before we start practicing? Right. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna read this. Here's the second task. You guys will have 45 seconds to read this. Remember, you're looking for the change and the two reasons, and then we'll listen to the conversation. So you may start reading now. Okay, so now we'll listen to their conversation.
Now listen to two students discussing the letter.
You're a runner. Did you see this letter in the paper?
Yeah, I did, and I use those.
And?
I think it's a terrible idea.
How come?
Well, she really hasn't thought it through. Like, the thing about making them safer. What she's not thinking about is the long-term consequences of running on a hard surface.
What do you mean?
I mean, it's not good for you. It's too hard on your bones and joints. If you run repeatedly on a hard surface, it can lead to injuries, or that's what I've been taught anyway. It's better to run on a soft surface. It does less damage to your body.
Oh, I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, so actually it wouldn't be safer. And her second point.
About changing the way they look?
Yeah, I don't think people will like it.
So they'd use them less?
Yeah, I mean, one of the main reasons people enjoy them now is it's a way of taking a break from the rest of campus, from buildings and streets and stuff. It's, you know, a chance to feel like you're out in nature.
Oh, so you wouldn't get that effect anymore.
Right. It'd be just like you were on a regular street or sidewalk. It wouldn't be as relaxing.
The man expresses his opinion about the proposal in the student's letter. Briefly summarize the proposal, then state the man's opinion about the proposal and explain the reasons he gives for holding that opinion.
Okay, guys. Now you all will have 30 seconds to prepare your responses. Okay, guys. So anyone would like to go first? Would like to try? No, maybe. I don't know. Daniela, maybe you would like to go?
Okay. So
Go ahead.
the student from the letter has the idea to pave the roads to make it more safer and make it look nicer. Meanwhile, the student is against this idea. First, he states that running on these roads has terrible long-term consequences. And in addition, he believes that people won't like these changes because most people just want to see nature and they want to escape from the okay. They don't want to see that change, I guess.
Okay, nice. So yes, that's perfect. So well done. That was a great first response. You made it in time. I love the way you organized your time. It was exactly 20 seconds for each part. You summarized the reading nicely. You used the transitions, the reporting verbs. You summarized the reasons that the student gives as well. So I wouldn't really change anything. Careful with some grammar, maybe some, what are these comparatives? That's something that everybody's gonna be using a lot right away in the speaking section. So make sure to check it out. Like more safer, right? Or nicer, or those kind of things. Those are the comparatives. What else? Maybe just that. I wouldn't really change anything else. So perfect.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Anybody else would like to go and try?
Okay, I will try.
Okay, Andrea, perfect. Go ahead.
Okay, the university proposed to pave the running race with cement because since increase the safety and the race it going to be look nicer. Meanwhile, the students doesn't like the idea because first he states that the pavement with cement is going to be hard for the body of the runners. And in addition, he believes that people wouldn't like that because it's going to be like the buildings and people prefers the nature for be relaxing. And that's it.
Okay, nice. Well done. Whenever you have some extra time, you can do a conclusion, but it's not necessary. So, okay, perfect, well done. So again, you kept the timing, you use the transitions, the template in general. Maybe try to avoid saying so much because that's for everyone, that's why we're here, we have so many options like since, as, for, our alternatives for the word because. We even have more.
Okay.
So yes, maybe just that, careful at the beginning too. So since they want to increase safety, right? It seems increase safety since they want to increase safety. And careful with the reporting verbs as well. Usually most of them are gonna be in the third person. So he states, the university proposes, believes, always in third person.
Okay.
Okay, guys. Anybody else? Okay. Anyhow, you will have your practice session just for this task, so an entire class to practice this with just money. And this week is gonna be a bit different, okay? So the thing is that you know that yesterday was a holiday, so we didn't have class yesterday. We were supposed to have theory class yesterday, practice session today, theory tomorrow, Thursday, and practice on Friday. But since, because of the holiday, everything was moved. So what we're gonna be doing this week is today and tomorrow we'll have theory class with me. So right now we're looking at the second task, and tomorrow we'll be looking at the third one. And you will have your 2 practice sessions, Friday and Monday, okay? So next week, Monday, you will have class. Just for that Monday, I promise, because in order to make up for the class we didn't have yesterday, you know? So you will have your 2 practice sessions, Friday and Monday, and then everything's gonna go back to normal from starting next week. Okay? So is that okay? Any questions about that? All right.
No.
So then I think that's gonna be it for today's class. I'll see you tomorrow. Please don't forget the daily survey before you go.
Bye,
Thank you,
Andrea.
teacher.
Thank you.
Bye bye, guys. Take
Bye.
care.